Has the American labor movement lost its way? It's a question that bears weight in the current socio-political climate. As we unravel the recent history of movements and their impact, we uncover a narrative that's not as cut and dry as it initially seems. A glaring point to mention is the noticeable silence from prominent political figures over the last 8 years. Yes, we are talking about the deafening quiet from U.S. Representative Rick Larsen, U.S. Representative Pramila Jayapal, U.S. Senator Sanders, and Patty Murray. Their silence raises several questions about their stance and commitment to the American labor movement. Moreover, it's worth mentioning that even our unions seem more focused on selling us on more OSHA inspectors and additional funding. They too are seemingly sidestepping the crucial issue of placing our human rights on the negotiation table. As we traverse the terrain of American politics, we encounter collectives like OurRevolution, the Green Party, various socialist factions, and influential lawmakers like Mary Fossey from Washington State, who all purport to be the sentinels of the working class. Among the socialist groups, one that shines prominently is Kshama Sawant's Socialist Silence. There are also remarkable figures in the Green Party such as Dr. Jill Stein, and in the Washington State Legislature, a distinguished name is that of Mary Fossey. Despite their lofty spoken promises and guarantees, one can't help but scrutinize whether they have genuinely confronted the immediate issues haunting American labor today. Consider, for instance, OurRevolution. Guided by Tyler Vajay in Washington State, this organization committed to a crusade for workers' rights and adherence to federal regulations. However, in a surprising turn of events, Vej, somewhat akin to his fellow Washington State lawmaker Mary Fossey, pushed the public to contemplate alternatives to the National Work Comp Commission that staunch supporters like U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders and Patty Murray rallied behind. Instead, he backed Scott Staffen, a Republican candidate. This scenario prompts a critical question. Are these factions and lawmakers like Fossey truly advocating for workers or merely maneuvering through political shenanigans? Now let's examine Kshama Sawant's Socialist Silence, Dr. Jill Stein from the Green Party, and Mary Fossey's role in Washington State. These figures have pursued public office with a resounding proclamation of their dedication to the working class. However, their political track record, including Fossey's, narrates a disparate story. Similar to their counterparts in the entrenched Democratic and Republican parties, they have fallen short in addressing pivotal labor issues despite their promises. Thus, it seems like the labor movement has been whittled down to a power struggle rather than a championing of rights. This is not to say that these organizations are devoid of purpose or that their members lack conviction. However, their actions or lack thereof have left a void in the representation of workers' rights. The labor movement, once a beacon of hope for the working class, now seems to be mired in political maneuvering and empty rhetoric. So what does this mean for the average American worker? It's a bleak picture indeed. With the supposed champions of their rights more interested in political posturing than actual advocacy, the labor movement appears to be a shadow of its former self. This brings us to the crux of the matter. It's high time we demand better. We must hold these groups accountable for their actions, or rather their inaction. We must insist on honest representation for workers. We must call out the superficiality of a labor movement that promises much but delivers little. In the face of this disheartening reality, it's easy to feel disillusioned. But remember, the power to change this narrative lies with us. We must demand better, not just for ourselves but for every American worker. Because the labor movement should be more than just a political tool. It should be a genuine fight for the rights and welfare of every worker. And it's up to us to ensure that it becomes exactly that. Since 1972, American workers have been in dire need of federal standards and a National Work Comp Commission. It's a necessity, not just a want. It's the backbone of a fair and just labor system, but sadly, it's a backbone that's been missing for far too long. These standards and the Commission are not just buzzwords. They are vital elements that can ensure fair treatment, equal pay, and safe working conditions for all workers. They can give workers the power to negotiate, to demand their rights, and to fight against exploitation. Yet, despite their importance, there has been a glaring lack of action in establishing these crucial elements. We have seen promises, we have heard speeches, but where is the action? The labor movement has been left in a state of stagnation for decades, and the absence of these federal standards and a National Work Comp Commission is a glaring testament to this stagnation. The time for change is now. Our workers deserve better. They deserve a labor movement that fights for them, not against them. They deserve a labor movement that is backed by federal standards and a National Work Comp Commission. And we, as a nation, must demand this change. We must insist on immediate action and reform, because our workers deserve nothing less.